Welcome to Auto Off Topic. Hey, we've got a guest tonight, Brad.
Which one?
It's another Brad.
Oh, now I'm already confused. This isn't good.
It doesn't take much.
So we've got Bradley Brownell from Jalopnik and
among other places.
Yeah, yes. Was it EV Pulse?
EV Pulse is an electric site that I write for. I am the editor-in-chief at flat6s.com, which is a Porsche site. And I do some freelance work elsewhere. You might know me as one of the co-founders of Radwood.
We might.
Yeah.
We might. I almost remember all those.
Our audience probably remembers most the Radwood connection because we are big proponents of.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, of anyone who wasn't a co-founder, I think you guys are the biggest proponents. So, yes.
Sweet. We'll take it.
Or maybe you're even a bigger proponent than some of the co-founders. I don't know.
Oh, hey now. Let's not
I think
let's not ruffle any feathers.
I think the last time we had you on was after Radwood Boston, officially. We have another episode, the 200th episode. Yeah, it has not aired yet. That is going to be a super bonus episode at some point. So
evidently, it was supposed to be number 200, I think.
Now it's just titled the 200th episode.
The 200th episode, yeah. It'll be episode 300 at this point.
Yeah.
No, it's almost done. It's almost done.
So yeah, thanks guys for having me. I'm super excited. I love talking to you guys. Obviously, enthusiasm abounds. So let's get started.
Yeah. So we'll throw out the tease. So later on in the episode, you've got a car show you want to announce.
Yes, and another car show. We couldn't do any in 2020, so I've got to double up on 2021.
Yeah.
We did one in 2020.
We did one. We did Austin. Yeah.
So we'll get to that at the end. But I want to talk about, you'd been posting it, and I read a couple articles on Jalopnik, and I saw you on Twitter with it. You bought a Nissan Leaf this year.
I did.
So I want to hear about that.
It was too cheap to pass up. I bought a 2011 Nissan Leaf, and for those of you who don't know, Leaf was like the first mass market lithium-ion electric car, basically. They were kind of crappy in 2011. Batteries weren't properly cooled. They were really small batteries, so they have pretty short range. And they were built to a price point, so like basically Nissan paid like $27,000 per car for the battery and then sold it for $35,000. So you've got an $8,000 car with $27,000 worth of batteries.
Yeah.
So the materials are bad. It's just kind of like not a great car. It's basically like a Versa or a Sentra or something like that, like a pretty low end car, but even with EV tech.
Even a Versa wasn't $8,000. So
sure, exactly. They still lost money on all of them. So. Yeah.
Well, that seemed to be the way at the beginning of electric cars in this country because if you remember, Mitsubishi had that weird little golf cart looking car. They marketed it as a car,
yep.
But it was a golf cart essentially.
Basically, yeah.
So that was they weren't marketing the luxury. The major manufacturers weren't marketing luxury cars as electric. They were trying to go for that entry level price point because they could. I personally thought it was strange they did that, because they had all this technology they were trying to pack into a super cheap car, and then you're trying to get somebody to pay a premium for a super cheap car.
Yep.
Whereas if they had a car that somebody was already paying $100,000 for, and they put $35,000 worth of extra tech into it, it may have been a better.
Part of the reason was they wanted to sell more of them. So the good thing about the Leaf is that Nissan sold a bunch of them. They've sold over 500,000 of them worldwide so far in 10 years. And so, in order to sell 500,000 cars, you got to start with something that's at least accessible to most people. So by selling that many, they've driven down the price of materials, the price of building it, the price, all of those things. So now the current Leaf is actually a pretty competent car. and it goes farther on range, and it's better built, and there's higher quality parts and all of that. So it's a better car now, and it still costs about the same as what it did 12 years ago.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. I never thought of it that way. I always just wondered why they were expecting somebody to pay. Because again, me from a normal car buying standpoint was like, why would I spend $35,000 on a Versa?
Sure, right. And a lot of people thought that. One, because you get a tax incentive, which was pretty nice, and two, because you never buy fuel again, which is also very nice. And so anyway, I bought this Leaf. It was kind of a rush thing. A friend of mine had posted it on Twitter that was like, oh wow, look how cheap this is. They dropped the price in half because they had it listed at $4,500, and then they had lowered the price to $2,000. And I was like, oh my god, a Leaf for $2,000, how bad could it be? So I found the listing on Facebook Marketplace, sent them a DM, and was like, hey, here's $500. I'm coming to pick it up tomorrow. And so I did. And it was about
a dealership?
No, it was at a person's house. So it was Central Valley, California, about 400 miles away from my house. No, 200 miles away from my house. 400 miles round trip. And I was there first thing in the morning, test drove it. It drove fine. I gave them the rest of the $1,500. I got a clean title, and car was mine. So
wow,
yeah, like easiest transaction I've ever made. They were totally truthful, totally upfront. They were like, we bought it for our grandmother. She hates it, so we registered it 2 months ago. We've driven it almost no miles, and we're selling it. So they probably took a bath on selling that car because they only had it for 2 months. They titled it, insured it, everything in their name, and registered in California, and didn't like it.
What kind of miles are on it?
It's got about 60,000, 57,000, I think, miles.
All right, because I'm on Craigslist right now, just looking at equivalent cars, and I'm looking at a 65,000 mile 12, and it's $4,500. So yeah, he's cool.
Yep. That's what I was looking at. Was most of them were in the $4,000 range. So when I saw one at $2,000, I was like, oh, I gotta have this. So
$4,000 seems like a good deal too for an electric car.
It's not too bad. It's probably worth $4,000, but when I saw one that cheap, I just had to jump because I knew it wouldn't last. I knew that at $2,000 it was going to be gone quick. So
yeah,
I was the first one there, and I was the one that brought it home. So.
On the surface, this seems like a very auto off topic vehicle. It's a car packed with new technology, but we have to open our minds.
It's definitely not. It's keeping my car's analog.
What was that, Brad? I'm sorry.
I said it's definitely not keeping my car's analog.
No, definitely not.
There's nothing analog about this car. But it was so cheap that I just had to buy it. And I brought it home, and I love it. It's only got a range of about 50 miles at this point. Originally would have been between 75 and 80. But the 2011 through 2014 had a different early battery chemistry, and they don't like heat. So living in the desert, living in Central Valley, California, if you drive it when it's hot and you drive it quickly or you charge it quickly, the battery really doesn't like that, and it starts to degrade the performance. So just over the years, it's just lost a little bit of its mileage. So over 55,000 miles, it lost about 30 miles of range. Not great.
That's a big degradation.
Yeah, not great. But as a city car, like just using it as an everyday driver, I don't go very far. My office is 4 or 5 miles from my house, so I can usually drive a whole week without having to charge it. And don't have to go to the gas station anymore. I just plug it in when I get home. It's full when I wake up, ready to go again for another week. So
what was the battery warranty on those? Was it like
It's expired now. I mean,
yeah?
10 years later, but yeah, it was if you had a certain amount of degradation within the first, I think, 5 years, then Nissan replaced your battery for free.
Uh,
So some of them have replacement batteries. This one I just don't think got enough driving in that first few years because I think it was originally a San Francisco car, so they probably just drove it like kind of like I am, like 3-4 miles a day.
So I'm reading the ads on them, and I see reference to bars on dash. Is that
yes.
a reference to the life of the battery?
Yes, there's a full, healthy battery. I think is 12 bars, and mine is 7.
Okay, so this $4,500 one is also 7.
Yeah,
Which,
so 7 will get you like 45 to 50 miles.
That makes sense given the fact that it's desert. That's a Phoenix ad, so it's probably the same sort of life that cars had.
Right.
A similar
so
miles,
the updated battery in 2015, they call it a lizard battery because it's better for heat.
Okay.
But the important part of this is that because it was so expensive to build the battery, Nissan cut corners. So they didn't build in any cooling infrastructure into the car. So when the batteries get hot, they just get hot.
Oh, yeah, they're not liquid cooled like they should be.
Right. So if they had been liquid cooled from the beginning, then this would have not been a problem. But it was. So so anyway, I bought this cheap ass car, $2,000. I kind of fell in love with it. It's a really bad little hatchback, but it's quick. It was rated at 9.90 to 60, but it's definitely faster than that. Feels like around 6.
That's a big difference.
And it just jumps off the line. It's got instant torque. It's got like 150-ish horsepower. There's a guy in town that actually tunes them, and his is pumping out about 200 horsepower, which is pretty cool. And as a driver goes, like it's super easy to just get in it, drive away. It just goes. Like there's no warming it up. There's none of that stuff. And I know that's like part of the charm of an old car. I have old cars myself, obviously, but yeah, as a utility thing, it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, we certainly appreciate utility things. I mean, I do have a modern car, so
sure.
That whole, if I don't want to deal with checking oil and warming cars up and all the other stuff, then I just get in the Volkswagen and go. It makes sense.
So I started doing some.
Does it have
weird stuff to it.
Does it have like the original brakes? Because it probably does a lot of regen, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it still had the original tires. I just replaced those.
Yikes.
But yeah, original brakes. It's hardly used the brakes at all. The regen is pretty good on that. And it doesn't have that many miles. I mean, 55,000 whatever miles is pretty normal for a car to still have original brakes these days.
So yeah, you replaced the original tires, but you replaced them with.
I got some pretty cool JDM 3-spoke wheels. They're called Super Longchamps XR3s, and I bought them from an importer in New Jersey that happened to have the right size that I needed. They're 17 by 7s, and stock on that car was 16 by 6.5, so it's a little bit bigger than stock, but not too much. And the bigger wheel and tire package will probably degrade range just a little bit, a few percent. So, but like I said, I don't drive it very far. And really, Reno is such a weird town because everything is within about 20 miles. So I could go pretty much anywhere in the city and back on a charge, no matter what. So I'm not going across the country in it, but as a little commuter shuttle, it's pretty good at that. But it's got these little 3-spoke wheels that I really love, and I'm kind of doing. It's weird because I've always been the sports car guy. I lower my car and I try and make it handle really well, and I put sticky tires and all that stuff on it. This car I'm doing more aesthetic work to, which it was a pretty straight car to begin with. It's got one dent that I'm trying to get paintless dent remover guy to do. Just haven't got around to scheduling the time, but but it's going to end up like a crazy color, some crazy wheels. I'm going to put it on airbags and lower it. I put underglow on it because that's a thing now again.
Oh, you lost us.
I'm into it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of car, and I'm looking at it a different way than I expected to. It's really weird. Like, it's totally nothing I've done before, but I kind of love it in that way.
What does underglow do to range?
Nothing. It's LEDs.
Oh, okay.
They're practically like invisible to the battery. It just doesn't care. But I also like don't drive around with it on. It's just kind of for showing off, and when I'm at the charging station, I'll turn it on or whatever.
So you could flex on Tesla drivers.
Yeah, totally. Well, the article that I wrote about it was I put LED underglow on my Nissan Leaf because Tesla can't have all the EV gimmicks.
Oh, okay. I get that point of it. You're trying to. Okay, that makes a little more sense now. I still don't support it, but I get it.
Also, like, I was on eBay and I was drunk and I saw it and I was like, I gotta have that. So it was just a thing.
Man, that's dumb, but I like it.
Yeah.
I don't,
like,
but I do.
It's not a car that I can take on a rally or, go on a fun trip with or go bomb the mountains with or whatever. It's like, I gotta have fun some way. And the best way that I can think of is to just like treat it kind of like a joke.
Okay. Well, it's I guess we can look at it that way. I mean, Andrew and I are no strangers to doing joking modifications to our cars. We had a car for a while that had, instead of chrome exhaust tips, it had Red Bull cans. So
yes, exactly.
I guess we can support this.
Yeah, I'm into it, and I think it looks really good with 3-spokes for some reason. Like, it really works.
The wheels look really good because the car is a quirky looking car, and 3-spokes are a quirky wheel, so it just works.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, I knew that it would look cool or interesting at the very least, but then when I put them on, I was like, oh my god, this made the car. It looks so much better now.
It looks less like a blob.
Yeah, and I removed all of the badging. So it used to say 0 emissions on the side, and it used to have, a big leaf thing on the back and whatever. So I pulled all that off. I pulled the rear Nissan badge off and polished up the headlights, and I painted the taillights, tinted them red. So it looks much better than the clear taillights that were on it before.
Yeah. Oh, they were clear before?
Yeah. They're all clear.
Oh, yeah. That looks way better now that you've said. I was looking at those pictures, yeah.
Yeah, it looks way better.
Yeah,
so
their taillights didn't age well.
No, they didn't. I agree with you. Yeah, but I did the center high mount in red, and I did both taillights in red, and I removed all the bumper stickers and the HOV lane access stickers and all that, and I just cleaned it up and made it look a little nicer. And I kind of dig it. Like, everything that I've done has made it look a little bit better, and it's kind of a neat shape. It's a weird shape. It's definitely blobby, but it's kind of a neat shape. I dig it.
I always like the rear 3/4 view of them. I thought they had kind of an aggressive kind of look to them, but they always lost me on the front end because it was so. I don't know how to explain it without being offensive. The front end was just kind of like meh.
It's like a catfish.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So the thing that I found out is that this platform is based on the same platform as the Juke. So that might help explain it a little bit. Because the Juke is very ugly.
Yeah. But I think the thing with the Juke is that it was so ugly that it kind of endeared itself to you.
Okay. Yes.
That's my opinion on the Juke. Another more than one-time guest of the show actually owns a Juke.
Mm-hmm.
And having seen it up close in person and looked at it a little bit differently, it's I don't know. I don't hate it as much as I did when it first came out, and I think again, it's just that it's like, oh, it's like a frog. Like,
it is definitely a frog.
They're not cute, but they're kind of cute because they're so dumb looking.
There was a little time period there where Nissan had some really weird vehicles.
Yes,
like the Cube
for sure.
See, now the Cube I dig.
It's cool, but yeah, it was different. Like, what? I mean, it was real risky to bring that to America because this is not something that we normally buy.
I don't think if we didn't get the Scion XB, we ever would have gotten the Cube.
Probably not.
I think
You're
it's
probably right about
a direct retaliation for that vehicle. So,
but
and then they tried to make it American because it was the Chrome edition, and it was terrible.
Ooh, yeah. I will say that of all the $2,000 cars that I've ever owned, this one's by far the best. It's in really good shape. So,
well, it's also not that old. Normally, $2,000 cars are 40 years old. So, that helps a bit too.
Does it sure moving parts?
It's kind of funny. It kind of fits into your collection a little bit of the more unloved. Like you have a 912, not a 911. You have a Leaf, not a normal car. Like it's definitely it fits that niche. I'll give it that.
Yeah,
and it's definitely interesting, and I'm learning more about them, now. And I haven't driven one, so
it's pretty cool. It's actually not too bad to drive. It's super quiet. It's really comfortable. It accelerates pretty well. As cars go, it's competent.
So I had to rent a Versa
Versas are terrible.
Oh, they're awful.
So there's not any Versa in this car at all, correct?
No. This is based on the Sentra platform, so it's bigger than a Versa.
Okay, well, the Sentra's a better car, so...
And the Sentra's a better car, yes.
Yeah, because I had a Versa, and we picked it up at the rental agency, and it literally had like 13 miles on it. We were the first renters of the car, and the car wouldn't go down the road straight. It was such a numb... Like, if you held the steering wheel straight, there was like 6 inches of play left to right before it would do anything, so it was hard to make it go straight.
Yeah, I really don't like Versas. There's a lot of... There's not much Nissan makes today that I really like.
Yeah, no, it's pretty sad.
Anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I've been into EVs a little while, but it didn't really kick off until I drove the Porsche Taycan.
Well, I mean...
And, yeah, but that, like, proves the concept that these things can be fun and interesting and all of that. So that's really awesome. And then I rode the Harley Livewire, and that really like sparked, no pun intended, my love of the idea of EVs.
So can we talk about that trip?
Yeah.
Because I don't think, after reading your synopsis of that trip that you put on Jalopnik, I think it was.
Yes.
I don't know how that inspired any kind of love for the vehicle.
Well, so first, that was actually the second time I'd ridden the Livewire. The first time was on the launch a year and a half ago. But, yeah, so I did an ill-advised long-distance trip on a Harley Livewire. I rode from Los Angeles to Reno, which is around 500, 600 miles. I think it's closer to 600. And the bike only has a range of about 100 miles, give or take, on the highway. But I'm also the size and shape of your standard barn. So I'm not very aerodynamic. Right. So the bike really doesn't like that. And anytime I would get a full charge, it would only go about 80-ish miles on a charge.
Okay.
Which is great for highway cruising, but there's enough highway infrastructure and there's enough charging infrastructure to get from Los Angeles to Reno.
Almost.
Well, there is. I just did it wrong.
Oh, okay.
So the first leg of the trip is the one that I'm least familiar with, obviously. Like, I just slung a leg over the bike and took off. So when I left, it said, range of 120 miles. And I was like, okay, well, I'll aim for 80. And that should be plenty. I'll give myself enough leeway.
Yeah, you're thinking 40 miles is a good enough range. Like, that's a quarter of a tank in a gas car.
Right.
Or a quarter of a tank in a small tank gas car.
Sure. So, like, I'm starting out knowing nothing, and I was like, okay, I set a plot point on my GPS that was 80 miles away that had a DC fast charger. And DC fast on this bike will get you 80% of charge in, like, 40 minutes. So it's not super fast, but it's also not, like, forever.
I'm just doing the quick math in my head of 40 minutes for a full charge for 100 miles of range. for a 500-mile trip. That's a long trip no matter what.
Yes, correct.
Those are long stops.
Yes. And to get a full charge is about an hour. So that the last 20% takes basically 20 minutes. So the thing that you normally would do is you charge to that 80% mark, because that's where you can pack in the electrons, and then you hop from charger to charger, and that's the quickest way to go. And I didn't really figure that out until I was about halfway through the trip, but anyway. So that first stop, I made it about 3 miles from my destination, and the bike quit. And that would have been fine if I had shut the bike off. But I didn't. So I ran out the juice from the what was remaining in the traction battery, and then I ran out the juice from the 12-volt battery, and it was dead. So somebody came to pick me up. Well, thankfully a good Samaritan was driving by with a trailer and said, "Hey, can I help you get to where you need to go?" He took me that final 3 miles to get to the charger. I get to the charger.
Dead luck.
What's that?
That's such luck.
It's very good luck. Yeah. He was extremely nice, very good dude. He helped me get the bike up on the trailer. It was, like the whole story was, the kindness of strangers. Like, people really are kind these days. You just have to let them prove it. And I wouldn't have gotten home without help from at least a couple of people. But anyway, so he drops me off at the charger and he takes off, and I was like, "Okay, cool." So I plug the charger in, and nothing happens. And so I call Harley Davidson. I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, you killed the battery, so the charger doesn't know there's anything there to charge. It can't communicate with the charger because the battery is dead."
This seems like a flaw.
It is kind of a flaw, yeah. But you're also not supposed to let the battery die. Like, that's... Yeah.
The 12-volt battery.
Either one, but yes.
Yeah.
So, if you run out of charge, you just shut the bike off, and it'll keep the 12-volt battery alive. But I left the flashers on, because I was on the side of the highway, not really thinking about it, because I was in a panic, and I was like, what do I do? All that kind of stuff. So, killed the 12-volt battery. Luckily, it's just a standard motorcycle 12-volt battery, and the exit where I got dropped off at, there was a motorcycle shop a block away. So I pushed the bike, and remember, this is a 550-pound bike, uphill to this shop, and they sold me the battery, of course, and then loaned me the tools for me to install it myself. And then once I had a 12-volt battery, I was able to take it back to the charger, plug it in, get it charged. And then from then on...
At least that was downhill.
That was downhill.
Yeah.
From then on, it was perfectly fine. The rest of the trip home was uneventful, and it rode fine, and it was actually, like, it's the most fun bike I've ever ridden, because it's just so fun. It's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't ridden one, but they're just effortless fun. And I did some hypermiling, and I tucked in behind some semi-trucks to get the aero, and did all those kinds of tricks to get the economy that I needed. And I kind of knew that it would be a 2-day trip, but I kind of wanted to make it a 1-day trip. That ended up not happening, because between the bike dying, getting picked up, getting the battery replaced, recharging it all the way and everything, it took from, like, that first 80 miles took me from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it was 5 hours.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of time.
It's a big chunk of time. So that ate up my day. So about 3 o'clock in the morning, I found a hotel, crashed for 6 hours, and then woke up early the next morning and made it the rest of the way home. It was only about 100 miles from there. But anyway, it is theoretically possible to go across the country on a live wire. Like, there is the charging infrastructure to do that if, one, you know what you're doing, and two, you're not an idiot. I am neither of those things, so I didn't make it. But
well, it sounds like you at least know what you're doing now.
Yeah, my whole life I've learned by just jumping into the deep end of the pool and figuring out how to swim.
So it feels like at this point, if you wanted to drive cross country, it's almost like if you were trying to drive cross country in a gasoline car in like the 30s.
Probably,
the 20s or 30s.
Yes. Well, except the highway infrastructure exists. So
not in the 20s and 30s it didn't. That wasn't until after World War II.
So the roads are better now.
Yeah.
It's just the fueling that's a little bit wonky.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's probably still easier today in an EV than it was back then in a gas car.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because there's A, fast food, B, hotels, and C, cell phone service.
Right.
So all those things can't be overlooked.
Sure. So I will say, depending on the car you pick, it's probably easier than a gas car. And depending on the route you pick.
Yeah, I think the route is the important part, because in a gas car, you can go to almost any little podunk town.
Yes.
And get fuel for your car, whereas
Correct.
an electric vehicle, you're going to be a little more...
It's getting
I'm sure there are some spots in Nebraska that are spotty in a Tesla.
Exactly. Yeah, it's getting that way with electric cars. There's something like 4,000 DC fast chargers in the country. Obviously, there are some places it's harder to find them than others, like Alaska or North Dakota. But in all the big towns and along all the major interstates, you're probably okay. Tesla says they have a charger within like 100 miles of everywhere in the country or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the stat is, and then other DC fast, like there's 3 times as many regular DC fast chargers than there are Tesla chargers. So if you know what you're doing, see, this is the problem with EVs is like gas cars, you can get in and go anywhere. Anyone can. It's been part of our infrastructure for decades.
Anybody alive knows how to do it.
More than likely, yes. With EVs, there's a learning curve. You have to know where the chargers are, how to find the chargers, that kind of stuff. Like there's no sign at the exit that says EV charger this way, and there's no big billboard that says next EV charger 45 miles or whatever. You've got to use apps. You've got to use your smartphone. You've got to, and it's not just one app. Like, you have to have the app that tells you where the charger is on your route. Then you have to plug that into a map app, like, Google Maps or whatever, like everybody uses. And then you have to have the app for the charger to operate. And then there's like 6 different charging stations. So you've got to have 6 different apps for each different kind of charging station. So it's not super easy yet.
Clunky. Yeah.
It's very clunky. But Tesla, this is why Tesla is so powerful in this sphere, because they make it dumb easy to find their chargers. You get in a Tesla, you tell it where you're going, it'll tell you where you're stopping to charge. It'll tell you how long you need to stop to charge, and it'll tell you whether or not that charger is open right now and still functioning. Whereas all of the other charging networks, you could show up and it could not be working. There's no way to know.
That is a serious anxiety moment. My only experience in a long distance in an electric car resulted in that kind of anxiety, and it was a Tesla. Through no fault of Tesla. The problem is when you start off on your trip, it doesn't factor in a major highway incident happening, closing down a long stretch of the highway and putting you off into side roads. So we wound up, we did make it back, but it was touch and go, and we had 20 or 30 miles left till either the next charger or home, and we had a range on the dash of 12 miles. So, but it wasn't, again, it was because, we were driving along and all of a sudden the highway's closed.
Sure.
And now we're on back roads in the middle of, there's nothing in between Phoenix and Tucson.
Right.
And that's where we were. And off the highway, sure, there are, but we were not near those anymore.
Right, sure.
So it became an issue, but...
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's still... It's not 100% there for big trips. It's for 99.99% of driving, it's there. But for that time when things get a little weird, that's when it messes up. So
that's when I have a heart attack. So this is why I know I don't own an electric car yet.
Sure. And that's the thing about learning to live with it, is like a lot of people won't learn to live with it. They just won't.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I'm very sympathetic to that idea. I mean, there's a reason I still have the Buick Touareg. We're not trading that in for a Tesla anytime soon.
Well, I mean, I even had a similar experience in my diesel. You know,
sure.
I ran it lower than I comfortably normally do.
Right.
And then I got to the fuel station, and the nozzle didn't play well with my tank, and I couldn't get the nozzle in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tank was too small for the nozzle, because it was designed for a diesel truck.
Yeah.
And I rolled into the next fuel station on fumes, and you know, that's even less of an issue than electric is at this point. And
sure. Yeah. I mean, I think diesel people kind of understand it a little bit, because the diesel infrastructure isn't nearly as good as it is for gasoline.
No.
So yeah, there's maybe a little bit of a crossover there between diesel people and electric people, but probably not a lot.
See, what you need is like Love's truck stops to put chargers in at every Love's truck stop.
They're doing that.
Yeah,
are they?
Already.
Yep. They're doing that.
Yeah. So that's like that's basically what you need people to adapt.
The downside that I see to that is Love's isn't a great place to hang out for an hour. So
Love's is better than most other choices.
Sure. Yeah. My personal opinion is I would love to see electric chargers at roadside attractions to give me something to do.
It would also get people in your door if you
you
make the charging free, but the attraction is not free.
Bingo.
Okay.
You're picking up what I'm putting down. Yeah, that's my long-term idea, is like we need to bring back roadside attractions for electric cars.
Giant ball of twine and superchargers.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Okay. I mean, that's something you can do you can kick around looking at the giant ball of twine for half an hour pretty easily.
Okay, I got you.
Play around a mini golf or something.
Play around a mini golf.
I don't think I understood why you said Love's wasn't the kind of place to hang around for a half hour, because like of all the gas stations, I usually will look for a Love's because I do feel more comfortable there.
Sure, yeah, but my point is, like, if you don't need to go to a gas station, it's really nice to never have to go to a gas station.
Okay.
Like, I guess we can get into it. This whole month, I've been doing EVs. I loaned a friend our Buick Touareg in exchange for his Tesla Model Y. So we traded cars for the month. I have the Leaf, and then I got 3 loaner motorcycles. So I have a Zero SRS, a Zero DSR, which is their off-roady motorcycle, and then a Harley Livewire that I rode from Los Angeles to here. And December for motorcycles isn't that great, so it's not. It hasn't been a walk in the park, but it's been super nice to never have to go to a gas station this month. Like, it's so nice to just wake up and have a full tank, quote unquote tank.
Yeah, no, I get that. I haven't been to a gas station this month either, but as long as I don't go anywhere.
Sure. Sure. We've done a couple of road trips that are, we did one to the literal middle of Nevada. There's a in the middle of the desert, there's a hot spring. So we went and hung out at a hot spring for a couple hours, which was really cool. And we had to charge, I think, 3 times on that trip. And the charge took between half an hour and 45 minutes on the Tesla. And most of the time it was just like plug in, walk away because we're in a town. We can go for a little walk around the center of town, or we can go, hang out in the park or whatever. Just kind of do your thing. Then one of them was kind of in the middle of like an industrial park, so we had to just sit in the car. But the Tesla has like YouTube and access to the internet and stuff, so it's kind of neat. We can just sit and watch a movie or Netflix or whatever.
Depending on where you are, obviously.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think all of them pretty much have internet access wherever the charger is.
Okay.
Because it's going to be along a major interstate or in a fairly big town for the most part.
Yeah, there's some spots along the 40 that are questionable for cell phone access. So
sure. But yeah, so it's been kind of nice to just have electric for a month and see how it goes. The whole idea is to see how it works for an enthusiast, because obviously being an automotive enthusiast, can I adapt to this electric future that everyone's saying is where it's going to be? I agree that it is probably going to go that way. I still think we have some issues to work out. The electrical grid, the charging infrastructure, more access to different kinds of cars. Like right now, there's 50 trucks that are supposedly coming, but none of them are on the market yet. So
or maybe even existing yet.
There's no real sports cars that are even close to accessible. You've got multi-million-dollar stuff like the Lotus that doesn't exist yet or whatever. But like there isn't even like a Mustang or a Camaro or anything like that. Like that would be...
Well, there's literally a Mustang.
There is, but there isn't. It's a Mustang in name only.
Well, it's funny because I saw a commercial for it last night, or a commercial for Ford's EV future, and they're saying, we're making our most iconic cars into electric. And it's like, you're really not.
Now, I don't want this to sound like I'm down about the Mach-E. I think the Mach-E is a very cool car. I think it looks nice. And I understand why they went with the Mustang name, and I'm not going to knock that, but it's not a Mustang in the traditional sense of the word.
No, and that's what I mean. They're not taking their most iconic car and turning it into electric. They're just taking their electric car and naming it after their most iconic car. Again, I don't have a problem with it. We've had that discussion on the podcast a million times. If they
made the current Mustang electric, I would probably buy one. I'd probably be in line to buy one tomorrow. I think it'd be a great car.
Yeah, I don't doubt. I mean, the Teslas are as fast as a Mustang GT anyway, so...
Faster.
Yeah, let's not... what's the difference here?
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't have a problem with the name. It's just one of those things. It was interesting to me that they're marketing it that way, but it's like, you just took a vehicle you made and named it an iconic name.
No, I think we agree that the electric future is coming, but it's just not coming overnight. And there's strides to be made.
I think that if the country made it a priority, it could happen a lot faster than it's happening. Like from a legislation standpoint and from a marketing standpoint, it could happen pretty quickly, I think.
There's this little thing called
lobbyists
and
the fossil fuel lobby.
I don't think that's going to be very quick.
No,
you can't tell me that major petroleum companies don't already have an idea of how they're going to supply EV.
Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason you're seeing EV charging stations at petroleum stations, not roadside attractions.
Yes.
So
exactly, and also like some of the biggest charging stations are owned by like Shell and BP.
Yep.
So like they're figuring it out. It's just they're gonna fight tooth and nail to keep gasoline around because it's probably more profitable.
Well, and not only that, but I think, and not to be morbid, but in our lifetime, I don't think we're going to see a full electric car future. I don't think we're going to have a time in our lifetime. All of us are 30 to 40 years old, where it's going to be nothing but electric cars. There may be
wrong.
I think maybe at the tail end of our lifetime, there might be no gas cars on the market, but I don't think we're going to get to a point where we don't see gas cars on the street.
I think the overwhelming consensus is going toward nobody's going to be making gas cars by 2040. Nobody.
I would probably comfortably take that bet that it's going to go longer than 2040.
I would agree with that there would be no internal combustion vehicles. But what you're saying, on off topic, Brad, is that they won't be eliminated from the roads as far as like legacy models.
I agree with that. I think cars will stay on the road. Like the average car age in the US right now is 12 years. So if we tomorrow said there's no gasoline cars, it would still be 2034 before the average car was old enough to not be gasoline anymore.
And here's the thing, is that they're still putting money and development into internal combustion engines. There's still brand new engines coming out.
There is, but not as much.
And it doesn't. I would never argue that point. I think you're absolutely right. But I think that 2040 is an early date for there to be no more internal combustion cars in the market. I don't.
Well, so it's semantics. You've already got legislation all over Europe that says 2030 is the cutoff.
Sure.
And if that happens, manufacturers aren't going to invest money for smaller markets.
No.
Like they're not going to just keep making gas cars because, I mean, yeah, maybe for India or maybe for Australia or something, but like for the majority of if it's illegal to buy a brand new one in the UK and Spain and France, then that's just going to be the way that it is. The manufacturers are going to stop making them for those markets.
We could always go back and look at it in the future, obviously, but I think it's easy to sit here and say that Europe's going to make it illegal by 2030. And it's very easy for a legislator in Europe to say, this is the law, this is how it's going to be. It's another thing to make it actually feasible and actually happen.
Well, the difference is Europe is already so much farther ahead of us. They're at almost 20% adoption rate right now, and we're at 2%.
Yeah, I don't know. So, and maybe I'm just being grumpy old American, but I just I would be willing to bet you on air right now that I don't think by 2040 it'll happen. I think it might happen by the end of our lifetime, but I think 2040 is awful close.
We'll call this a digital handshake.
Yeah.
I'll see you in 2040.
All right.
I mean, then you're going to have you're going to see a crop up of more EV conversions, and GM's releasing EV crate motors. Like,
yep.
A lot of our favorite classic cars are going to be eventually converted to EV. And
which, like, how I've been thinking about this. Like, what classic car makes the most sense for an EV conversion? And I've got it in my head, like a 63 Cadillac convertible.
Well, yeah. I think it's anything with a rear-wheel drive, normal bell housing transmission. They make a universal kit for. Yeah, at that point, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't even need a universal kit. I could put one motor on each wheel.
Well, I think that's more complicated, I think, than just putting
Sure, yeah.
Well,
what I picture is a giant RC car motor with the output shaft going right into the transmission.
Yep.
I mean,
which exists. That's
exactly. And that to me is going to be the most simple, effective way to electrify old classic cars, is that simple CAN motor that just plugs into your transmission. No other modifications necessary.
Is that as the technology gets smaller and smaller and the battery chemistry gets better, so the density of energy gets better, and you can make the battery smaller and lighter, it's just going to make more sense.
Yep.
I mean, think about like my grandfather's 75 Cadillac. If it's got like a 24-gallon fuel tank, if you replaced that 24-gallon fuel tank with a bolt-in battery of that size, with emerging tech that's probably coming down the road, you probably have a 400-mile range out of it. It'd probably go further than it would have before in the gas.
Here's the other thing: is current battery tech from 2011, that Leaf battery that cost $27,000, is now, that was over $1,000 per kilowatt hour. It was a 24 kilowatt hour battery. Currently, batteries cost less than $100 per kilowatt hour to produce. 10 times less in 10 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's gotten to a point where probably within the next 3 or 4 years, it's going to be cheaper to manufacture an electric car than it is a gasoline car. And it's already cheaper to engineer it because what do you got to fit in there?
Yeah,
an electric motor is an electric motor is an electric motor. It doesn't matter.
The whole roller skate concept is good for all this. That shared
modular design.
And I know there are companies, I don't remember the name of it. There is one in Massachusetts that is working on recycling these batteries, like literally just being able to grind them up to extract the metal out of them, then to reuse it. So this stuff's coming.
Yep.
And there's other interesting things happening with hybrid batteries too that I've recently learned about. A lot of guys that build big stereos in cars, they used to run, racks of 12-volt batteries in the back of their car. And now they take, one strip of cells from a Ford C-Max.
Right.
And they get like 7 times the output of 12 car batteries they would have had back there.
Whoa,
in a package that weighs, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
So neat stuff. And you can buy those C-Max batteries for like $250 at the junkyard. So
that was a big thing, like especially when the Prius went to lithium ion, because they were nickel cadmium for so long that it got lighter. So it's like becoming a better car through development of this lithium ion tech, because lithium ion is now cheaper than nickel cadmium, which was the standard before.
Yeah, and my first electric anything experience, and probably a lot of people's, was in a Prius. And,
which wasn't like that defines competence. Like, it's a competent car, but it's not a great car. Like, there's nothing exciting about it.
Well, what I was going to say was, after driving the car, I actually rented it to drive to and from Tennessee and back to Massachusetts. And I've driven worse.
Yeah.
And even I took it on, the tail of the Dragon, and while it wasn't a sports car, it was certainly fun enough to take 2 trips back and forth. So I get it a little bit. I'm not going to come out here and say a Prius is a good car or a fun car, but I get where the average human being who doesn't care about that extra, 0.2 of performance out of a car, or let's maybe more than that, even 0.4 of performance out of a car, would even give 2 craps.
Right.
So it is what it is. But that's.
I mean, like I said, the Leaf isn't something that I'm going to be driving up in the mountains. Like, I still have my 912 for that. I still have the 944 for that. Like, I can still go out and have a good time. It's just when I don't need to be having fun, I can tool around town in this little piece of shit.
I think I speak for every my age and older that our biggest fear is we're spending our life savings on these dumb old cars that are antiquated and just for us, and someday we're not going to be able to use them.
Yeah, it's possible, but I mean, spend the money on what you enjoy.
Yeah, what are you going to do with it? You can't take it with you. It's going to be like
I don't know how to do anything else. So
I mean, we're going to end up being like horse owners, right? Like, just in your garage.
Yeah, eventually, probably.
You take them to a racetrack, and whatever, they make just enough gasoline per year for enthusiasts, and it costs what it costs, and you use it, and that's it.
Oh, we were talking about that the other day, Andrew. Porsche is working on a
synthetic
fuels to replace the eventual.
They're not emissions free, but they're emissions net zero.
Yep.
So they emit as much as they consume, basically.
And right now it's incredibly expensive, obviously, but I think that once that becomes a more mainstream process, just like the batteries, it'll be something that can come down in cost and maybe give us that extra hope. And the fact that a company like Porsche is looking at it and saying, hey, we want our classics to be on the road forever. We're going to help develop this. I think.
Well, and I gotta say, Porsche is also playing the other side of the game. They're playing the Taycan, the electric side.
Well, they're playing the full future.
Yeah. The Taycan drives, in my opinion, better than anything else they make right now.
It costs more than anything else they make too, so I hope so.
Sure. I mean, yes. it's a $100,000 car for the entry level model, but I mean, I would have that over a Panamera. Panamera is the same kind of money, 130 grand.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I would have that over. I mean, honestly, I'd have it over a 911. 911 starts at 100 grand.
A modern 911, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I don't have much of a reason for that either.
Yeah. So it's a really fun car. It drives like a mid-engine car because the batteries are in between the wheels. So you've got all of that mass inside. So there's no overhang. There's no understeer. There's no oversteer. It's just grip. You can tell it's heavy. I mean, it's a 4,000 something pound car. You can feel the heft, but it grips and it goes. It's really fast.
Yeah, I've heard. I'd love to give it a go sometime, but there's a lot of cars in between what I have driven and a Taycan, or Taycan.
Sure.
Sure. I'll get there eventually.
Yep.
When they're old. So, motorcycles, cars, everything's going electric. I personally have bought an electric vehicle in the past year. I bought a lawnmower. So
I did too.
There's that.
I bought an electric lawnmower this year too.
It makes a lot of sense for the size of my yard.
It's so nice.
Yeah, I can store it vertically, and I don't have to worry about the gas going bad in it.
Yeah, I have the little Ryobi with the removable pack. Yeah, and I use the removable pack in my leaf blower and in my edger and in my, all of my yard equipment uses the same battery. It's great.
Yeah, I have the same exact setup you do, and I've gone fully on board with that. So maybe I'll be easier to convert to cars. But I was never a lawnmower enthusiast, so I don't know. It was a little easier to convert. Actually, I think now I am a lawnmower enthusiast because I enjoy using it because it's so quiet and effortless.
Yeah,
it just sounds like a giant fan.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
I throw my headphones on. I can hear my music. It's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mowed the lawn one day, and I came back inside, and I was like, "Oh, I'm all done with the lawn." And Stephanie's like, "You mowed the lawn?" I was like, "She's like, I didn't hear it." Like,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
No, it is nice, and electric technology is certainly our future. And there's no denying it at this point. In 1916, you could have gone either way, and you could have had a tough bet either way, but. Definitely electric is our future. There's no question. I don't think it's a gas versus electric car thing anymore. I think it's more time and waiting.
We always preferred electric RC cars, so
if we never owned a gas RC car either.
Yeah, because they were a pain in the butt to operate.
You know how much of a pain about a string trimmer was. We didn't want that in our toys.
Yeah.
No, I never had a gas RC car, so I see that for sure.
So anyway, there's a lot of enthusiasm around all these electric bikes, motorcycles, cars, and we teased at the beginning of the show that you are planning a car show for these type of vehicles.
Yes. Put together a group of EV enthusiasts with myself. I actually literally had the idea on December 4th and have basically everything set up now for a new car show, probably December 2021, assuming, everything goes all right with these vaccines and everybody can travel again. It's called Autopia 2099. That's our name for the show.
That's very Epcot Center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're getting where we're going with this. So the show is built for all electrified enthusiasts. So it's EVs, plug-in hybrids, and some traditional hybrids.
RC cars.
RC cars, bring them on.
We'll be there.
I'll have a Skelectrics set. You can play that. But yeah,
I'm definitely going to be there now.
The whole thing is to showcase the future while proving that EVs have been there all along. So the idea of EVs has always been looking to the future. It's always been progress. It's always been advancement. And EVs have been around since the 1900s, since the turn of the century. Since the 1800s, I guess, where there were cars that were competing with gasoline cars because gasoline was so much harder to come by back then that batteries made sense. And then the gasoline infrastructure started to be built out, and EVs kind of died off. And then there was a resurgence in like the 1970s with the fuel crisis. There were people that were trying to build their own and, you know, do their little garage kind of stuff with
the electric leopard. Electric leopard comes to mind.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of weird, like half-assed kind of EVs that were built around that time, but they're very cool to me. And then the 90s, there was the California mandate where they said that a certain percentage of all cars sold in the state had to be electric. They've since walked that back, obviously, but...
Which goes to my point of the 2030 number.
Right. Well, yes, but we'll get there.
Sorry.
So there's stuff like the EV1 and the Ranger EV and the RAV4 EV and all that from the 90s. Then you've got like 2010 was when stuff really started to take off. You've got the early Teslas, you've got the Leaf, Volts, Bolts, that kind of stuff, all the way through to today. So the EVs have always been there, kind of in the background, and now they're taking off in a big way. Like certain counties of California see like 30 to 40% electric car adoption. So obviously that's the place to be for our show. We're going to be in Los Angeles because there's a bunch of EVs there. And that's where kind of the enthusiasm lives. But it's also like the history of car culture is in Los Angeles. You've got hot rod culture. You've got all that kind of stuff. And that's one of the things that really draws me to electric is the hot rod aspect. This year there was EV West took a car to Bonneville and they set an electric car record at Bonneville, which is really cool. There are cars running at Pikes Peak. I mean, obviously the overall winner at Pikes Peak is an electric car. One of the really cool things is Hyundai actually built a car with Hayden Paddon to run the Rally New Zealand. Obviously, the rally got canceled, but they built a Kona WRC spec electric car that was going to compete in like WRC.
That's wild.
At that rally,
mm-hmm.
Which cool. Would have been totally awesome, but obviously the rally got canceled thanks coronavirus. So there's all kinds of like these motorsport things that people are doing with electric and proving that in certain aspects it's faster, better, stronger than gasoline. The whole point of this show isn't to say that EVs are better. It's just proving that the future doesn't have to be bleak if you don't want it to be. You know, there's a lot of people saying, oh, well, you know, EVs are boring. I'll never catch on. I want my car to make, you know, roar noises, whatever. But traditional hot rodders are grabbing onto this and going really friggin' fast with it, which really draws me in. I've always been a hot rodder. I've always been a race enthusiast in my heart of hearts. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to showcase at this show. I want to show off the weird swaps, the crazy fast stuff. You know, maybe we can get Volkswagen to bring the IDR. That would be awesome. I don't know if we can, but I'm going to ask. Maybe we can get some hybrid Le Mans cars. Maybe we can get, you know, some of the stuff throughout history that's been proven really effective in certain aspects of motorsport. Drag racers. There's actually an electric drag racing association based in Southern California.
That's been around for 25
EDRA.
years.
Yeah, they've been running since 90, I think.
Yeah, it's been on for a while. Because I know one of their most famous vehicles is that Datsun 1200 that does silent wheel stands. Yeah.
There was a mail truck for a long time called Gone Postal. And okay. I really dig that.
I dig it. Old drag cars play on words the best.
Yeah. I think like the Icon Mercury. There's an Icon Mercury that they built electric.
Yeah, it's a 50 Merc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think Bisimoto's 935. think the EV West Bonneville car. Like those are the kinds of cars that I want to be on display. I'm not promising that I'll get all of them, but we're going to talk.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying is that if you're going to do electric stuff, it's going to be new technology. It's got to have style to it. It's got to have appeal.
Exactly.
So, because you can't just have these little bubble cars because nobody's going to want them.
Right. Right. Yeah, I heard you guys talking about that on the last time. And I agree. There's going to come to a point where they have to cater to car enthusiasts. At some, that makes sense. To give me an electric sports car. That's what I want. The Honda Sports EV concept. That's perfect. I want that.
That's the first electric car that I've been like excited about.
Right? Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Like it looks cool. It looks like it will perform well. It looks fun. I want fun.
Yeah, the G-forces would be the same. You're just not going to do it with any engine noise.
Right.
It'll just be whirring and the tire noise.
And like that, the Livewire, the Harley Livewire, has proved to me that I don't really care about the sound. Sound is fine, but like none of my cars sound particularly great anyway. Like the 912E sounds kind of not good. I'm not going to be dishonest about that. It sounds not good. But like I don't really care about the sound. I care about how I feel, how the G-forces interact, how I'm interacting with the bike, how I'm interacting with the road, those kinds of things. Like it makes all the sense in the world to me especially if the battery technology catches and moves in a way that it needs to, gets cheaper, gets more efficient, but yeah, I'm in. I'm already sold. They don't even have a sports car out there that I can buy, but I'm already sold. I know that this is the way to go especially even for enthusiasts.
Well,
it just has to be built.
In the past,
you can build it yourself.
Yeah,
it just has to be built.
In the past 2 years, I would say that my opinion of electric cars has been swayed in a significant way towards positive. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm all in like you, but a lot of things tonight came up that I haven't thought about in the past. Like, we brought up RC cars and you brought up slot cars, and our first introduction to motorized vehicles was always electric. Andrew and I spent hours with slot cars. We spent hours with RC cars, and that was how we did it. And to think of it as more of like a big RC car or a big slot car is kind of a neat way to think about it. And start again, Brad. I don't disagree with you that the sound isn't everything. None of us own Ferraris.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that sound. I think one of the biggest things that's going to be hard for a lot of dyed-in-the-wool old school car enthusiasts is the lack of a manual transmission is one of the harder things to get past.
It's not. I'm one of the most diehard manual guys out there, and I will agree that part does kind of suck. But if I had the choice, there's not that much out there that has a manual now anyway.
No, and not in modern vehicles. I'm talking about the converting of older cars.
Oh, sure.
Well, then you just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, no, but if you're going to convert old cars, like part of the appeal to a vintage sports car is that connected to the car feel, and that manual transmission is a huge.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
you're not wrong. And there's a reason why my 912E isn't EV. It still has a gas motor.
Which is why you point out that like your '63 Cadillac is the ideal electric conversion car, and I'm inclined to agree that if I had my daily dream car like to drive every day is a hot rod 58 Edsel with a modern LS power plant, so I can go anywhere. Mm-hmm. But maybe that 58 Edsel would be cool with a Tesla power plant because
I think it would.
I could just drive.
I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's well out of my realm of thought and affordability. But it's definitely
honestly they're like not that much more than a high end LS swap though. Either
the words you put there first, the high end part.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be more expensive than a 5.3 truck motor, but like if you're buying a crate motor, it's going to be probably about the same money.
Well, when it gets to the pick and pull level, then we'll talk.
Sure. Right.
Or I get a big raise, one or the other.
I will say, The Leaf motor that I bought for my Boxster was $2,000.
Okay.
So it's getting there. It's not there yet, but it's getting there.
Does it sting a little now that you bought a whole Leaf for $2,000?
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. But again, I bought the motor like a year and a half ago. And I mean, realistically, a Leaf is still a $4,000 car. I just got a really good deal.
No, of course.
So, yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm excited for your new show. I will definitely be there.
Cool.
If you need any help with anything, please reach out. I'm not.
Yeah, what's the name of the show again?
It's called Autopia 2099. We have Twitter and an Instagram, so please go follow.
It is Autopia. It's Autopia.
Autopia.
So just AUTOPO.
Yeah, it's A Utopia 2099.
Yeah, I had a little trouble finding it because I was typing in Autotopia because I was a little. I mean, that's obviously user error, but hey, that's what I was. Just so you know, you can tell people that.
As long as you have a Fruitopia machine there, I'm in.
Yeah. No, it's Radwood, man. Come on.
No, Fruitopia was totally in my high school. We totally had that in the 2000s. But
I feel like it was in my high school too, and that was in the 90s. So.
Oh, okay.
You're right.
So, yeah, it's obviously like kind of going for it's not going to be a traditional car show. It's going to be in the vein of a lilke Colt or a Radwood or something like that. It's going to be aesthetically exciting. We're going to have a unique feel. It's going to be an enthusiast thing, but we're hoping to get like the regular Joe to come along as well, because it'll be Instagram friendly and an exciting time for the whole family. So, yeah, come along. It'll be fun. It's hopefully the first or second weekend of December. We haven't knocked down a date or a venue yet, but we're getting there. We still got a year.
That's going to go by faster than you think.
I know it will. Having run events for the last 4 years, I am well aware how quick time goes. But we're going to get there. We've got a good team. I'm really excited. It's going to be a fun time. The best thing you can do right now to help me out is follow on those social media accounts. That'd be great.
Excellent.
Follow along. Maybe share some news when we share it. And tell all your friends.
Yo, I think we got the scoop here, didn't we?
You are the first people I've told. We actually just came up with the logo today.
Awesome.
Cool. So, yeah, you heard it here first.
That's right.
Unbelievable. We actually scooped someone.
Unbelievable.
I'm putting in an application for my SEMA pass now.
You totally could get a SEMA pass.
Yeah, probably.
If you can't, let me know. I know the right people to yell at. But yeah, so the whole thing is we've been through 2020, and everybody's been down in the dumps. Everything has sucked this year. I'm going into 2021 with a little bit of optimism. I just have to.
Yeah, we all have to.
We all have to.
That's a positive note for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that the whole theme of this show is optimism for the future. You know, people who have been pushing this electric car tech for 100 years have been optimistic about the future, have been hoping that their technology will catch on and move a generation into the future. It's taken 100 years to get to where we are now, but it's starting. There's a spark there, and it's, you know, again, no pun intended, that has, you know, lit the fire of the American or the world consciousness on EVs. And I think that there's enough enthusiasm, and a little bit like Radwood, we were a little early. Like, we were just on the leading edge, and that's the perfect time to jump in. So, yeah, I think that we're still a little early for mainstream adoption, but that's the perfect time to start a new show. Get the early adopters, they'll tell all their friends, it'll become a big thing, and I think that there's some real legs here with this show. It's going to be a good time.
Second thing you start that's successful. We're going to add influencer to your title next time you're on.
Hey, I've been an influencer for years.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it yet.
Bradley Tastemaker Brownell.
That's right. But the whole theme of the show is like retrofuturism. So we've got like a Buck Rogers, nuclear age, atomic age kind of like feel to it.
So like Buck Rogers plus like some 80s synthwave plus like
a little bit plus some like
it's like how now when you watch, like I watched Back to the Future the other night too, and now when you see them go to 2015, it's like, all right, this is like, now you believe it. Now you have to think that this is like the alternate timeline that they entered.
Exactly. That's the kind of feel that I'm going for, like a Disney's Tomorrowland,
right?
Or like a GM. What was it? Autorama.
It was the Parade of Progress.
That like that kind of aesthetic is what we're going for.
Yeah, or inside the Epcot ball there, the Epcot Center.
Exactly. So that's the kind of feel that we're going for with the show. It'll hopefully pan out exactly like I want it to, and nothing will go wrong, and everything will be perfect. That's what 2021 has to be, right?
I'll take that bet too. No, honestly, I definitely hope it does, because it's definitely exciting. I'll definitely be there. Like I said, if you need anything at all, LA is the same distance for me as it is for you.
Yeah.
So I can certainly help out in any way you need.
Awesome. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
We'll and I'll be glad to have you. We'll put you up in our Airbnb or something. It'll be good.
Thanks.
It's going to be a fun time. I think that just getting back together with people again is just going to be something to look forward to. So even if you don't care about EVs, you might have a good time.
Yeah. Well, no, LA is always a good time to visit, and we're all jonesing for another Radwood. So let's.
Radwood, man. Hopefully, we're aiming for like late summer to restart doing shows.
Yeah. All depends. We can't.
It's all dependent. Obviously, we can't sign any contracts or tell anybody or start selling tickets, but hopefully, in the summer, we'll have some more Radwood shows. Obviously, Rad for Sale is kicking off soon. Hopefully next month.
All you need to do is make it aesthetically more pleasing than Cars and Bids.
That's not going to be hard. My tastemaker influence there will help. No.
Yeah. Anything more than simple block lettering and all white backgrounds.
Yeah. We've got some cool stuff going up, and we're going to have some neat features that hopefully people really enjoy. I'm not a whole lot hands-on with that because I'm not a web guy, but I've seen what it's going to look like, and I've been in the meetings of like how the workflow is going to work and all that. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be a really cool program. So if you have an 80s or 90s Radwood era car for sale, put it up on Rad for Sale.
My Eclipse is going on the market very soon, and if the person who expressed interest early doesn't buy it, then maybe we'll have to be one of the first cars on there.
Nice. I'm probably going to sell my 944 on there. So yeah. Excellent. The one that got jumped over at Radwood, LA, 2018.
Providence.
That's right.
It also got jumped on.
Don't tell people about that.
You fixed it. It's fine. It's just a windshield.
It's not fixed yet. It still has a broken windshield.
Oh.
It's scheduled to go in for replacement. It just hasn't been done yet. It's been sitting in the warehouse for a little while.
That's fine.
But I broke the windshield by accidentally jumping on it.
I don't know if the jump was accidental.
The landing was accidental.
That's the problem.
Landed in the wrong place. Yeah.
Not to bring up old wounds, but that's
no, it's funny. So. Anyway, yeah. So there's a lot going on. We're working on it. Hopefully, 2021 will be the year that everyone enjoys. At least the latter half of it.
Yeah, no, let's hope for the best, and hope we can travel soon, and hope we can see you soon. And Our listeners don't know it, but I visited you on the last weekend of travel. So you were the last person that I saw outside of my bubble here.
Yeah. I've done a little bit of traveling since then. I've been very safe about it, mostly on motorcycles, away from people with a helmet on. So
we did one car trip, but still the last real big, normal trip, the last non-mask wearing going out to restaurant trip was you and you.
Yeah, that was the weird thing is I mentioned that to Amanda the other day. Was we went to a restaurant with people in it and didn't have masks on.
We shared appetizers. Whoa.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, luckily we survived.
I was thinking the other day, if everything goes as planned, New Year's Eve 2021 is going to look like VE Day in New York.
Yeah. Sure will.
Yeah. That's gonna rule, honestly. I might even go to New York for that.
Yeah.
That would rip. I'm excited to see you guys again. I hope that it happens soon. And by the way, Brad, that trip was to come pick up a truck.
Sure.
What's going on with that?
Did you listen to last week's episode yet? Or Andrew's even out yet?
No, actually that will be out when this episode drops. It's going out tomorrow, which will be New Year's Eve, so you have already heard it if you're listening to this episode.
Short
I was going to say I listened to the most recent episode, but I didn't hear anything about the truck.
Short version of that story, sir, is that it's been given a new deadline. I'm breathing new life into the project.
Okay,
and we'll go from there. But it does have a hard, fast deadline, and if it's not done, it's gone.
Okay, I'm optimistic, and if you need help in any fashion, let me know.
You want to help me rob a bank?
Sure.
All right, cool. We can get this done.
I can give you a 0-interest loan.
No.
Of $20.
Yeah, okay, definitely. Now we're in. No, it's just it's 2020 hit weird.
Yeah. No, it definitely did.
And it was in storage off-site for a while.
Uh-huh.
Then I bought a house.
Yep.
And that's been time-consuming and money-consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And
I did too. Trust me, I know.
Yeah. So we're getting to the point now where it's a little more. It's coming. It's coming. We'll get there. Listen to the episode tomorrow.
All right. Yep. I don't think you'll have a problem. I think you'll be fine.
Oh, I have lots of problems.
You'll get it done. I'm optimistic for you. That's my goal in 2021 is be more optimistic. So
all right,
I'm gonna be optimistic.
I'll go right along with it, and that's why I gave myself a new goal for it. So
good.
Excellent. All right, Bradley, where can people find you on the social medias?
Well, that's the downside is I deleted all of my accounts.
You have one. I have two now.
I have one. I'm on Twitter at BC Brownell, and obviously I'm running the Autopia 2099 accounts, and I'm still on the Radwood accounts. So go check those out. Follow Radwood on Twitter. Nobody seems to be doing that, so please do.
Maybe it's better that way. The Facebook.
You can also find my work at jalopnik.com every day, flat6s.com most days, evpulse.com. I have a weekly column. Basically, my friend Chad came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to give you carte blanche to write whatever you want." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." So I have an opinion column, and people who know me know that I have opinions.
No.
So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, Andrew, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Race and Anger. I'm also Race and Anger on Twitter these days. It's pretty fun over there. And you can follow the podcast, Auto Off Topic on Twitter, Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Auto Off Topic on Instagram. And that's where we are with Auto Off Topic. And Brad, where can they find you?
I like how we're talking about getting into things early, and we're talking about how we're new to Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at TSISS350, and you can find me on Facebook at Brad DeSantis or the Auto Off Topic podcast. I do have a Twitter account, so I'll start being there as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, cool. So keep your cars analog or EV, I guess, and aim for the roses.